Today's reading is from Ted Berry, and it was inspired by Chief Seattle. All things are, this we know, all things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. Whatever befalls the earth, befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life, he's merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. So here's an introduction to our presentation. Each of us has a theory of reality, a concept of the nature of the world, which is commonly referred to as our worldview. And it varies from person to person, but it's what we share in common is the cement that holds our culture together. We absorb it by osmosis in the process of growing up and acculturation. We've been living since the 17th century within an underlying view of the world as a divine machine created by God. Even human beings as machines. From Descartes' view of the body as machine to Dennett's conception of the brain as a computer, our understanding of human beings is permeated with mechanical metaphors. At the most fundamental level we could discern, atoms acted as machines, predictable, unchanging, machine-like, ruled by simple cause and effect. This centuries-long period has been dubbed the machine age or the Industrial Revolution. And then in 1923, what is that? 101 years ago, a young German physicist named Werner Heisenberg made an incredible discovery that disproved this belief, showing that yet smaller particles than atoms behave in strange, totally incomprehensible ways. And this dilemma finally broke the back of machine age thinking. However, it was completely overthrown following that. The publication of Norbert Wiener's book, Cybernetics, in 1947. I mean, many of us were alive then. And realized in a book by von Bertalanffy in 1954. I mean, is that a name you know? I didn't. And yet he's made this incredible impact in the way we are beginning to think. We're currently in the early stages of a tremendous change in the dominant worldview. A shift in age as large in its implications as the movement from the Middle Age through Renaissance to the Machine Age. So here is Bob Koches to illuminate this important time we are witnessing, experiencing, and living through. Thank you, Bob.
Good morning, everyone. About 2 months ago, a group of us were sitting in the garden here talking about future services, just like the services committee is going to do today. The service committee, we'll go back a little bit. Yeah, talking about future services. Okay, thank you. The service committee proposed having a presentation in April on the subject of transformation and the interdependent web. My thinking about today's message began then. In reflecting on the subject, I thought about our humanist discussion group. In the past months, we have discussed climate change, migration, demographics, AI or artificial intelligence, water scarcity, food scarcity, changing world orders and wars, supply chains, disinformation, and autocracy versus democracy. Now, although each topic stood on its own, when looking at all of it, it became apparent they were not isolated problems, but intrinsically connected to an infinitely complex web. It also became apparent that we live in a world of intricate connections, where every action, every thought, every being is interwoven in a vast dynamic network of relationships. To fully understand this requires a new way of thinking, one that is nonlinear and holistic in its approach. As Russell Alcoff says, a dilemma is a problem that cannot be solved by the means in which it arose. In the Germany of the 1920s, the Weimar Republic, both organic biology and gestalt psychology were part of a larger intellectual trend that saw itself as a protest movement against the increasing fragmentation of alienation of human nature. The entire Weimar culture was characterized by an anti-mechanistic look, a hunger for wholeness. Organismic biology, gestalt psychology, ecology, and later on, general systems theory all grew out of this holistic zeitgeist, or the spirit of the time. Gestalt psychologists, led by Max Wertheimer and Wolfgang Kohler, saw the existence of incredible wholes as a key aspect of perception. Living organisms, they asserted, perceive things not in terms of isolated elements, but as integrated, perpetual patterns, meaningful, organized wholes, which exhibit qualities that are absent in their parts. The notion of pattern was always implicit in the writings of the Gestalt psychologists, who often used the analogy of a musical theme that can be played in different keys without losing its essential features. Gestalt psychologists saw their school of thought as a third way beyond mechanism and vitalism. Vitalism is a rejected tradition in biology which proposed that life is sustained and explained by an unimmeasurable intelligent force or energy. The Gestalt school made substantial contributions to psychology, especially in the study of learning and the nature of associations. Several decades later, during the 60s, the holistic approach to psychology gave rise to a corresponding school of psychotherapy known as Gestalt therapy, which emphasizes the integration of personal experiences into meaningful wholes. The great shock of the 20th century science has been that systems cannot be understood by analysis, that is, taking something apart, studying the parts, and in order to understand the whole. A simple example. If you've never seen an automobile, could you understand what it does by studying the pile of parts that make it up? And yet, trying to understand reality through the process of analysis is the paradigm we have been living with for centuries. The word paradigm was first used in its modern sense by Thomas Kuhn in the 1950s in relation to understanding reality via the hard sciences like physics. Fritjof Capra eased the term's migration into the soft social sciences. A social paradigm is a constellation of concepts, values, perceptions, and practices shared by a community which forms a particular vision of reality that is the basis of the way the community organizes itself. Paradigm shifts are discontinuous, revolutionary breaks with earlier ways of thinking and experiencing. Out with the old mechanistic straight-line thinking, cause and effect, in with thinking in terms of processes rather than structures, relationships rather than components, interconnections rather than separation. Focus on organization and the dynamics generated by the complex interaction of systems embedded in larger and larger systems. Paradigm shift became one of the most influential concepts of the 20th century. In fact, one can know the parts, but they can only be understood within the context of the larger whole. This relationship between the parts and the whole is being reversed. Accordingly, what we have begun calling systems thinking concentrates not on basic building blocks, but on basic principles of organization. Systems thinking is contextual, which is the opposite of analytical thinking. Understanding requires synthesis, that is, putting ideas and information together to see an overall pattern of how things come together in place of or in addition to analysis. The focus of the inquiry is on the organizations and the dynamics generated by the complex interaction of systems embedded in other systems and composed by other systems. Systems thinking is a gateway to seeing interconnections, looking at emerging patterns, looking at new ways of thinking about a problem, and thinking in terms of the whole gestalt that can lead to those aha moments that create paradigm shifts. Once we see a new reality, we cannot go back and ignore it. More importantly, that scene has an emotional connection, beautifully captured in the statement by Rusty Zweigart after seeing his experience of seeing his home planet from space. Quote, "From the moon, the earth is so small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can block it out with your thumb. Then you realize that on that spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music and poetry and art and death and birth and love, joy, tears, games, all of it, right there on that little spot that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize that from that perspective, that you have changed forever, that there is something new there, that the relationship is no longer what it was." This realization carries profound implications for how we understand our place in the world and our responsibility to one another. As Rusty Zweigart says, what we realized was our responsibility for doing whatever we can to extend and continue this amazing evolutionary experience that we call life.
A Sufi story tells of a village of blind men.
Got ahead of us there. To explore the concept of system science, let us watch this short video.
A Sufi story tells of a village of blind men. One day, a new creature arrived. Each of the blind men grasped one part of it and declared that they knew what it was. A snake? A rug? columns, but by only experiencing one part of it, each was wrong. In our everyday lives, we also tend to look at things in parts rather than experiencing the world as a whole. This is not surprising, as such divisions start early on in school, where we are divided into a range of subjects. Yet, the world is much more complex, and if we are to understand its complexity, we need to think about the greater picture. We have to think in systems. Let's illustrate this with a universal example. Love. Do you love me? Yes. But how much? In our love systems, the amount of love is always crucial. Some things help love to grow, such as laughter and good conversation. However, the amount of love can also diminish, such as after a bad argument. Thankfully, we do have precious moments in life, like a honeymoon, where we ensure that love is strengthened. While in the everyday, we tend to settle for a sweet harmony. Indeed, our love systems are extremely sensitive. In some cases, tiny actions can have a huge effect. While others take some time to manifest. Yet love doesn't just exist between two people, it's much more than that. Love also exists between brothers and sisters, kids and parents, within family circles, and also among friends and wider communities. In reality, love connects us all. However, we often damage love by repeating the same mistakes and not recognizing unintended consequences. For example, grounding a naughty child to teach good behavior could make them even more rebellious. Sometimes, even small arguments can turn into large and messy fights. As adults, we often promise to call our parents more, but this can soon fade as time passes. We can also become fixed to distractions, not realizing that this may be creating deeper disconnects in a relationship. And all too often, we lose sight of what really makes us happy. Although we all tend to make such mistakes in love, there are wisdoms that can guide us towards systemic solutions. So, why don't we use such wisdoms to understand more complex systems and not only love?
My friends, love is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. It is a spark that gives rise to new life and propels us to care for one another. Romantic love drives us to pair bond and nurture the next generation. The love between parents and children creates the sacred family unit that is the core building block of society. The love of friends sustains us through hard times and life's journeys. And of course, the universal love of humankind is meant to transcend boundaries and unite us. We here in the fellowship talk about love. We look at ourselves as an extended family. We talk about being a beloved community. We say, choose love. We even wear a shirt that says that. Let us look, not as individuals, but collectively in a free-flowing process of interaction circling around love. Let us reflect on the unifying force of love that binds us together across all boundaries and differences. The image before us offers a powerful vision, love at the center, radiating out through principles that guide us towards a more compassionate, just, and harmonious world. At the very heart, we find love, that profound capacity for kindness, empathy, and connection that makes us fundamentally human. Love is a thread that weaves through all spiritual tradition and ethical philosophies. It is the catalyst for understanding, the balm that soothes wounds, and the light that guides us through the darkness. Surrounding love, we see interdependence, a recognition that our lives, our faiths, our very existences are intricately intertwined. Just as the strands of a web rely upon each other, we depend on the whole tapestry of life for our flourishing. When we embrace interdependence, we open ourselves to deeper relationships, environmental stewardship, and a more holistic worldview. Radiating from that center are the pillars of justice and equity. True love, coupled with independence, compels us to establish fair systems, equal opportunities, and equitable treatment for all people, regardless of identity or circumstances. We must confront injustice, dismantle oppression, and co-create a society where every being can thrive. The principle of generosity flows from this wellspring of love. With open hearts and hands, we have the power to alleviate suffering through compassionate giving of resources, time, effort, and spirit. Generosity expands the circle of ethical concern and plants seeds of kindness that blossom across communities. Transformation represents one's love's potential to drive positive personal and societal change. When our perspectives shift through the lens of love's high wisdom, we gain courage to involve in liberating ways. Transformation beckons us to embrace growth, shake off limiting beliefs, and become more actualized humans. And encircling this constellation, pluralism reminds us to celebrate the wonderful diversity of perspectives, cultures, and identities that allows love's kaleidoscope to radiate more brilliantly. With pluralistic openness, we make space for the breathtaking spectrum of human experience. My spiritual companions, may this integrated vision of love and its harmonizing values ignite our deepest humanistic callings. In this interdependent web, may we choose to embody justice, cultivate equity, practice generosity, welcome transformation, and expand in a pluralistic embrace. Sustained by love's unquenchable flame, we can co-create a more peaceful, thriving world on this sacred earth, our shared home. But how does this reflect on us as individuals? How do we find the balance in our own lives? This is where the Japanese concept of ikigai comes in. Its literal definition is purpose to live, but its importance goes far deeper than that. Although the Western concept of ikigai is sometimes compared to one's vocational sweet spot, this is an incorrect comparison because ikigai ignores all restrictions or limitations. For one thing, the Western view does not consider that most of us here are retired. Japanese psychologist Michiko Kumano said that ikigai is a state of well-being that arises from devotion to activities one enjoys, which also brings us a sense of fulfillment. Ken Mogi, a neuroscientist and author of Awakening Your Ikigai, says that ikigai is an ancient and familiar concept for the Japanese, which can be translated simply as a reason to get up in the morning, or more poetically, waking up to joy. Searching for one's ikigai, one's reason for being or waking in each morning joyfully, is arguably what many people are doing already, whether they consciously or not know it. Even though the conceptions of ikigai can vary, as we've seen, there is a general agreement that finding this motivating purpose in life is associated with greater fulfillment and happiness. There are basic human drives to pursue our passions, develop our talents, help others, and make a living. Simultaneously, it is not always clear where these drives might coalesce in a path that leads us to a fulfilling life. This is where reflection and self-study come in. Here are some suggestions that may increase the feeling of one's ikigai. Journaling and self-examination. Writing down thoughts, feelings, and experiences can help clarify on values, passions, and sources of meaning. Regularly reviewing and reflecting on journal entries can uncover patterns and insights. Meditation and mindful practices. Quieting the mind through meditation allows space for deeper self-awareness and connection to one's voice and authentic self. Exploring different philosophies and worldviews. Reading about various philosophical and religious traditions can expose new perspectives and ideas that resonate, shaping one's personal belief system. Engaging in community. Participating in UU congregations and humanist groups provides opportunities for discourse, sharing stories, and learning from one another on similar journeys. Embracing curiosity and lifelong learning. Maintaining an open, inquisitive mindset and continually seeking knowledge can uncover new interests, callings, and avenues for growth. Aligning actions with values. Periodically evaluating whether daily activities and life choices are congruent with core beliefs and what truly matters can reveal misalignments needing adjustments. And so, my friends, may this integrated vision of love and its harmonizing values ignite our deepest humanistic callings and quest for purposeful living. In this independent web, may we choose to embody justice, cultivate equity, practice generosity, welcome transformation, and expand in pluralistic embrace, all while discovering our unique ikigai. Sustained by love's unquenchable flame, we co-create a more peaceful, thriving world of meaning in this beloved community, and on this sacred earth. As we leave this sacred space, let us reflect on the patterns of involvement between us in our beloved community, guided by love, leading us individually and as a group to fulfillment and purpose in our relationships. Blessed be.